Marcus felt his cheeks flush with embarrassment and anger. Raw? It's intentional. The emotion is in the imperfection. Richard closed the portfolio and handed it back. I'm sure it is. But this isn't the right place for this kind of art. Good luck. The finality of Richard's words hit Marcus like a sledgehammer. He stood there for a moment, clutching his portfolio, before turning and walking out, his head held high despite the humiliation burning in his chest. Marcus's resilience. Marcus walked home that evening with a fire in his heart. The rejection wasn't unfamiliar, but the sheer disrespect he faced fueled something deeper. He replayed Richard's words in his mind, not as a source of despair, but as motivation. Determined to prove himself, Marcus immersed himself in his art with a newfound intensity. By day, he worked odd jobs to fund his passion, from waiting tables to painting murals for local businesses. By night, he poured his soul into canvases, experimenting with textures, mediums, and techniques. His tiny apartment became his sanctuary, every wall adorned with works in progress. Marcus also began attending underground art shows and community exhibits, places where gatekeeping was non-existent, and talent was the only currency that mattered. In these spaces, his work started to gain attention. Fellow artists praised his ability to evoke profound emotion, and small-time collectors began purchasing his pieces for modest sums. Despite his growing underground reputation, Marcus didn't forget the sting of rejection. He researched the art world obsessively, learning its language, politics, and players. He studied the works of renowned artists, dissecting what made them commercially successful without compromising their essence. Slowly, Marcus refined not only his art but also his understanding of how to navigate a world that often excluded people like him. Through it all, Marcus never lost sight of his ultimate goal: to create art that mattered, to open doors for others like him, and to prove that brilliance couldn't be confined by prejudice or dismissed by arrogance. Little did Richard Alcott know, the artist he had mocked would soon become the name that would reshape the art world, and his own fate, forever. The Unseen Talent. Introduction to the artist. Marcus Bellamy was born in a small, unassuming town in Georgia, where creativity often took a backseat to practicality. Raised in a modest household, Marcus grew up surrounded by the kind of love that nurtured dreams, even if resources were scarce. His mother, a nurse working endless hours, and his father, a mechanic with an artistic flair for restoring vintage cars, instilled in Marcus a sense of perseverance and pride. From a young age, Marcus displayed an uncanny ability to see the world differently. While other kids sketched stick figures, Marcus painted elaborate landscapes with the cheapest crayons. His teachers marveled at his work, but recognition stopped there. Art supplies were a luxury his family couldn't afford, so Marcus improvised, using everything from leftover paint from his father's shop to discarded paper. As he grew older, his style evolved. Marcus became fascinated with abstract art, using bold strokes and vibrant colors to communicate emotions that words could never capture. His works often reflected his experiences as a black man in America, pieces that screamed of struggle, resilience, and hope. But the art world was a fortress, one with gates guarded by elitism and prejudice. Despite his obvious talent, galleries showed little interest in an unknown artist with no formal art education or affluent connections. Encounter at the gallery. One chilly Friday afternoon, Marcus decided to take a leap of faith. He had heard about the Fairmont Gallery, an upscale space known for showcasing the finest contemporary art. Its owner, Richard Alcott, was a prominent figure in the art world, though infamous for his arrogance and dismissive attitude. With a portfolio in hand, Marcus walked into the gallery, his heart pounding with a mix of hope and apprehension. The gallery was immaculate, white walls adorned with minimalist sculptures and paintings that screamed exclusivity. Marcus's presence immediately drew glances from the patrons, who seemed out of place themselves yet fit the gallery's pretentious atmosphere. Richard Alcott, a tall man with salt-and-pepper hair and a sharp suit, approached Marcus with a raised brow. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension. Marcus extended his portfolio. "I'm an artist. I was hoping to show you some of my work, maybe discuss the possibility of. Before he could finish, Richard cut him off with a dismissive wave. I don't think we're looking for anything unconventional at the moment. Unconventional? Marcus asked, confused. Richard smirked, flipping through the portfolio without much interest. He landed on a piece titled Fractured Chains, a striking abstract piece representing Marcus's feelings of liberation and restraint. Richard chuckled. Abstract is a tricky business. People prefer established names. Besides, your work, it's a bit, how shall I say, raw. The breakthrough. Marcus's first big opportunity. It was a warm spring evening when Marcus decided to attend the annual Downtown Arts Fair, a local but lively event showcasing everything from amateur painters to seasoned sculptors. The fair wasn't prestigious by any means, but it was a melting pot of creativity, filled with curious onlookers, struggling artists, and, occasionally, a few influential figures scouting for hidden gems. Marcus had managed to rent a modest booth near the corner of the bustling street, his artworks carefully displayed on makeshift stands. He couldn't afford extravagant framing or glossy marketing materials, but the raw brilliance of his art spoke for itself. His pieces, vibrant and evocative, drew a small but steady stream of visitors who lingered longer than usual, captivated by the emotion in his brushstrokes. Among the crowd was Evelyn Carter, a seasoned curator with a keen eye for talent. Evelyn had an impeccable reputation for discovering overlooked artists and propelling them into the spotlight. As she strolled through the fair, her attention was caught by one of Marcus's pieces, Eclipsed Dreams. The painting was a mesmerizing interplay of shadow and light, evoking a sense of struggle and resilience. Evelyn approached Marcus, her sharp, discerning gaze sweeping across his booth. "Who's the artist?" she asked, though she already suspected the answer. "That would be me," Marcus replied, a mixture of pride and caution in his voice. Evelyn introduced herself, and they struck up a conversation. She asked Marcus about his inspirations, his process, and his journey. For the first time, Marcus felt genuinely seen, not as a struggling artist, but as a creator with a story worth telling. By the end of their talk, Evelyn was convinced. "Your work is extraordinary," she said. "I'd like to feature it in an upcoming exhibit I'm curating." Marcus was stunned. He'd dreamed of this moment, but had never imagined it happening in such an unassuming setting. With a firm handshake, they sealed the beginning of what would be a transformative partnership. The rise to fame. Evelyn's exhibit, titled Visions of Change, was a celebration of emerging artists pushing boundaries in the art world. Held at a prominent gallery in the heart of the city, the exhibit attracted critics, collectors, and art enthusiasts alike. Marcus's pieces, displayed in a prime spot, quickly became the talk of the event. His work resonated deeply with viewers, many of whom were moved to tears by the raw emotion conveyed in his abstract strokes. The exhibit was a resounding success, and Marcus sold several pieces at prices he never imagined possible. More importantly, his name began to circulate among influential circles. Collectors praised his ability to infuse profound narratives into abstract forms, while critics lauded his unique perspective and fearless use of color. Following the exhibit, Marcus's work was featured in prominent online galleries, further amplifying his reach. His paintings began to sell for thousands of dollars, and his fanbase grew rapidly. Social media buzzed with posts about his art, with hashtags like #MarcusBellamyArt and #AbstractPower becoming trending topics. Requests for commissions poured in, and Marcus found himself juggling opportunities he had only dreamed of a few months prior. Yet, amidst the chaos of newfound fame, he remained grounded, dedicating every free moment to honing his craft and ensuring that his work remained authentic. The turning point. The moment that solidified Marcus's place in the art world came unexpectedly. A prestigious art magazine, Modern Canvas, published a cover story on him. The article, titled Marcus Bellamy, The Future of Modern Art, was an in-depth exploration of his life, his struggles, and his meteoric rise. The article was a sensation, painting Marcus as a symbol of resilience and talent in a world that often overlooked people like him. It featured photographs of his most iconic works, including Fractured Chains and Eclipsed Dreams, accompanied by glowing commentary from critics and collectors. "Bellamy's art transcends boundaries," the article declared. "His work isn't just seen, it's felt, leaving an indelible mark on the soul." The magazine's publication catapulted Marcus to international fame. Invitations to exhibit his work in renowned galleries and museums flooded in. His paintings, once mocked as raw, were now fetching six-figure sums at auctions. The art world couldn't get enough of him, and Marcus, ever the visionary, used this platform to advocate for underrepresented artists, becoming a voice for change. But amidst the accolades and success, Marcus never forgot the sting of rejection at the Fairmont Gallery. Richard Alcott's dismissive words still lingered in his mind, not as a source of bitterness, but as a reminder of how far he had come. Little did Richard know, the artist he had belittled was now a force to be reckoned with, a force that would soon cross paths with him again in a twist of fate neither could have foreseen. The gallery owner's reckoning. Richard's struggles. Richard Alcott, owner of the once prestigious Fairmont Gallery, was a man of habits. For years, he had relied on his reputation and a predictable clientele of wealthy collectors to keep his gallery afloat. His curated exhibitions, featuring established artists and safe, uninspired pieces, had been enough to maintain his place in the art world. But times were changing, and Richard found himself increasingly out of touch. The art market had shifted toward innovation and inclusivity. Emerging artists with fresh perspectives were capturing the public's imagination, while collectors sought unique, thought-provoking pieces that reflected contemporary realities. Richard's reliance on safe names and conventional works now seemed outdated. Attendance at his exhibits dwindled, and sales plummeted. Patrons who once viewed his gallery as a symbol of prestige now saw it as stagnant, a relic of the past. Desperation began to set in. Richard's expenses grew while his profits shrank, forcing him to lay off staff and scale back his exhibitions. The gallery, once a beacon of opulence, now struggled to fill its space with paying guests. Even Richard's long-standing collectors began to defect to rival galleries, lured by the promise of something new and exciting. In a bid to revive his fortunes, Richard decided he needed fresh talent, someone with undeniable star power who could breathe life back into his gallery. Yet, his old habits and prejudices blinded him to the rising voices around him. He scoured lists of trending artists, hoping to find someone who could restore his gallery's glory, but he was woefully behind the curve. The shocking realization. One morning, while sipping his coffee and browsing through the latest issue of Modern Canvas, Richard's eyes fell on a name that seemed to be on everyone's lips: Marcus Bellamy. The magazine's glowing cover story about the artist's meteoric rise in the art world piqued his interest. The article praised Marcus as a trailblazer, a visionary whose work was redefining the boundaries of abstract art. Intrigued, Richard flipped through the pages, studying the photographs of Marcus's paintings. He couldn't deny the raw power and emotion in the works, and something about the style felt vaguely familiar. The article mentioned the astronomical prices Marcus's pieces now commanded and the intense demand for his exhibitions. Richard's gallery, with its dwindling relevance, could benefit immensely from showcasing such a renowned figure. But there was no mention of Marcus's past struggles or the encounter that had taken place in Richard's gallery years earlier. To Richard, Marcus was just another name he had overlooked in his tunnel vision. He didn't connect the rising star with the young black artist he had dismissed so callously. Richard decided that Marcus Bellamy was the answer to his problems. If he could secure an exhibition with this artist, it could be the boost his gallery desperately needed. It was a bold move, and Richard knew it wouldn't be easy to attract someone of Marcus's stature. But desperation left him little choice. The call for collaboration. Richard wasted no time reaching out to Marcus's team. He drafted an email that was both flattering and persuasive, highlighting the Fairmont Gallery's legacy and its commitment to promoting contemporary art. He praised Marcus's talent, claiming he had long admired his work and would be honored to host an exclusive exhibition. Unbeknownst to Richard, Marcus had read the email with a mixture of amusement and vindication. Marcus, now represented by a skilled team of professionals, recognized the irony immediately. He vividly remembered his humiliating encounter at the Fairmont Gallery and the condescension Richard had shown him. The thought of working with the man who had once mocked him was laughable, but also tantalizing. Marcus's manager, Evelyn, asked him how he wanted to proceed. This could be an opportunity to show him just how wrong he was, she said, her voice tinged with satisfaction. Marcus thought for a moment before replying. Let's agree to meet with him. I want to hear what he has to say. But I have a feeling he's in for a surprise. Evelyn nodded, a sly smile on her lips. She drafted a response agreeing to a meeting, leaving Richard ecstatic and oblivious to the storm that was about to come. As the date for the meeting approached, Richard prepared meticulously, believing he was about to secure the deal of a lifetime. Little did he know, the artist he was courting had no intention of simply signing on as another name in his gallery's history. Marcus was coming not as an artist seeking validation, but as a man who had outgrown the gatekeepers who once tried to keep him out. The power shift. Marcus's strategic move. The day of the meeting arrived, and Marcus prepared himself for what would undoubtedly be a moment of poetic justice. Clad in a tailored suit that exuded confidence and success, he walked into the Fairmont Gallery with Evelyn by his side. The gallery was a shadow of its former self, its walls adorned with uninspired works that reflected the stagnation of Richard's vision. Richard greeted them in the lobby, his expression carefully composed but betraying a hint of desperation. Marcus, Evelyn, welcome, he said, extending a hand. It's an honor to finally meet you in person. Marcus shook his hand firmly, locking eyes with the man who had once dismissed him so carelessly. The honor is mine, Marcus replied, his voice calm but charged with underlying purpose. Marcus cut him off, his voice rising slightly. A few years ago, I walked into this gallery with my portfolio. I stood in this very space and asked for a chance to show my work. And you, Richard, laughed in my face. You said my art was too raw and unconventional. You didn't even give me a second glance. The color drained from Richard's face as realization dawned. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. Does that jog your memory? Marcus pressed, his eyes sharp. Richard stammered, I didn't, that was a misunderstanding. I didn't mean to. Marcus held up a hand, silencing him. It's fine. Honestly, I should thank you. That rejection fueled me. It made me work harder, push further, and prove myself in ways I might not have otherwise. So, thank you, Richard. But I'm not here to simply exhibit my work. The gallery buyout. Marcus's smile widened as he slid a folder across the table. I'm here to make you an offer. Richard hesitated before picking up the folder. As he read the document inside, his hands began to tremble. It was an offer to purchase the Fairmont Gallery outright. Marcus wasn't interested in merely showcasing his art, he wanted full control of the space. This is a joke, right? Richard said, his voice shaky. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious, Marcus replied. Your gallery is struggling, Richard. The declining sales, the lackluster attendance, the outdated exhibits, I've done my research. You need this as much as I do. Richard was silent, his pride battling with his desperation. The offer was generous, far more than he expected to receive for a failing gallery, but the idea of relinquishing control to Marcus stung. Yet, he knew he had no choice. The gallery was sinking, and without Marcus, it would likely collapse within the year. Finally, Richard sighed. If I agree to this, what happens to me? Marcus regarded him thoughtfully. That depends. You could walk away with the payout and start fresh. Or you could stay on, under my leadership, and witness firsthand the transformation I plan to bring. The choice is yours. Richard nodded slowly, defeated. All right. I'll sell. Tables turned. The transaction was finalized within weeks, and the Fairmont Gallery officially became Marcus Bellamy's. Marcus wasted no time in implementing his vision. He renamed the gallery the Vanguard Collective and announced its mission to champion underrepresented artists from diverse backgrounds. The space was revamped to reflect this ethos, with vibrant, boundary-pushing works replacing the sterile, conventional pieces that once lined its walls. The Vanguard Collective quickly became a hub for innovation and inclusivity in the art world. Marcus curated exhibitions that celebrated voices often overlooked by traditional galleries. Emerging artists of color, LGBTQ+ creators, and others from marginalized communities found a home there, their works given the spotlight they deserved. Richard, humbled by his downfall, chose to stay on as an employee. Under Marcus's guidance, he slowly began to see the art world through a new lens. Though it was a difficult adjustment, he came to respect Marcus's vision and the undeniable impact of the gallery's transformation. For Marcus, the journey was deeply fulfilling. He had turned a space that once excluded him into a beacon of hope and opportunity. The gallery's success wasn't just a personal victory, it was a statement to the art world that brilliance could not be confined by prejudice or gatekeeping. As Marcus stood in the gallery one evening, watching a diverse crowd admire the works on display, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had not only reclaimed his dignity but had also created a legacy that would inspire generations to come. The tables had turned, and Marcus Bellamy was now a name synonymous with change, resilience, and the power of art to transform lives, redemption and legacy. Rebranding the gallery. The Fairmont Gallery's transformation into the Vanguard Collective was more than a simple rebranding, it was a rebirth. Marcus meticulously designed every aspect of the gallery to reflect its new mission, uplifting marginalized voices and redefining the art world's perception of talent. Gone were the sterile white walls and unapproachable atmosphere, in their place were vibrant murals, communal spaces for workshops, and installations that welcomed people from all walks of life. The gallery's opening night under its new name was a landmark event. The theme of the inaugural exhibit, Unseen Voices, featured artists whose works told stories of resilience, identity, and hope. The pieces ranged from bold abstracts to intricate sculptures, each one brimming with authenticity and heart. The turnout was unprecedented, with critics, collectors, and art enthusiasts mingling with local community members who had never set foot in a gallery before. Richard Alcott, the former owner, stood quietly in the background that evening. He had chosen to stay on as a consultant, recognizing that his experience could still be valuable under Marcus's leadership. Humbled by his downfall, Richard had undergone a personal transformation of his own. Working for Marcus wasn't just an employment decision, it was an act of atonement. One evening, as the two stood side by side, watching a group of young artists discuss their work with attendees, Richard turned to Marcus. "You've done something incredible here," he said, his voice tinged with admiration and regret. "I was blind to what art could really mean. Thank you for giving me a second chance." Marcus looked at him, his expression softening. "Everyone deserves a chance to grow," he replied. "But the real thanks should go to these artists. They're the reason this place exists." The exchange marked a poignant moment of reconciliation, a testament to the power of transformation, not just for individuals but for entire communities. Community impact. Under Marcus's leadership, the Vanguard Collective quickly became a cultural powerhouse. The gallery wasn't just a space for displaying art, it became a catalyst for change. Marcus established mentorship programs, offering emerging artists access to resources, workshops, and networks that were traditionally out of reach. He partnered with schools, hosting art classes for underprivileged children, ensuring the next generation of creators would have opportunities he never had. The gallery's exhibits consistently challenged norms, showcasing works that addressed social issues, celebrated diversity, and pushed artistic boundaries. Media outlets began referring to Marcus as a trailblazer, praising his ability to merge art with activism. His gallery inspired similar initiatives across the country, creating a ripple effect that reshaped the art world. Stories of success began to pour in. A young painter from a rural town saw her career take off after her work was featured in the Vanguard Collective. A sculptor who had been overlooked for years gained international recognition after participating in one of the gallery's exhibits. These stories weren't just anecdotes, they were proof of what could happen when barriers were removed and talent was given the platform it deserved. The gallery's impact extended beyond the art world. Local businesses thrived from the increased foot traffic, and the community experienced a renewed sense of pride. Marcus had created more than a gallery, he had built a movement. Marcus's lasting legacy. As the years passed, Marcus Bellamy's influence only grew. His art, once dismissed as raw, now hung in some of the world's most prestigious museums and private collections. Yet, Marcus never lost sight of his roots. He continued to create, his pieces reflecting the journey he had traveled and the causes he championed. One evening, as he walked through the gallery after hours, Marcus paused in front of a painting titled Fractured Chains. It was the same piece that Richard had mocked years ago, now framed and displayed prominently near the entrance. The sight of it brought a bittersweet smile to his face. It was a reminder of where he had been, how far he had come, and the resilience that had carried him through. Marcus's story became a beacon of hope for artists and dreamers facing prejudice and rejection. His success was a testament to the power of perseverance, creativity, and the belief that art could change the world. Through the Vanguard Collective, he ensured that the doors that had once been closed to him were now wide open for others. In interviews, when asked about his journey, Marcus often said, "Art is about connection. It's about seeing and being seen. If my work and this gallery can help even one person feel that, then I've done my job." And so, Marcus Bellamy's legacy was etched not just in the strokes of his paintings but in the lives he touched, the barriers he broke, and the world he changed.